Malcolm Jamal Warner. What if the most wholesome television family you grew up with wasn't a family at all, but a pressure cooker? What if the laughs hid a power struggle, a young star pushed to the edge, and a co-star who kept quiet for years because speaking up could cost everything? Tonight, the curtain finally pulls back on Malcolm Jamal Warner, Lisa Bonet, and Bill Cosby. And once you hear it, you'll never watch that show the same way again. Back in 1984, America met the Huxtables smart, stylish, and funny. The show didn't just entertain, it shifted culture. Bill Cosby played the father everyone wished they had. Felicia Rashad embodied warmth and authority. And the kids? They felt real. Malcolm Jamal Warner was just 14 when he stepped in as Theo, earnest, messy, lovable. Lisa Bonet, at 16, arrived as Denise, creative, curious, a free spirit who didn't fit any mold. On screen, they were a family. Off-screen, they were teenagers navigating fame under the watch of the most powerful man on set. And according to Malcolm Jamal Warner, that power shaped everything, especially for Lisa Bonet. As Denise grew up, so did Lisa. She didn't want to be frozen in time as the safe, sweet daughter forever. She wanted to take risks, try complicated roles, and be seen as a full-fledged adult actor. That's normal growth. But when you're part of the biggest show on television and the star is also the boss, normal gets complicated fast. Then came Angel Heart in 1987, the bold film with Mickey Rourke that signaled Lisa's pivot. It was moody, adult, and miles away from sitcom comfort. The reaction behind the scenes? In the stories Malcolm Jamal Warner has shared over the years, it wasn't just, "we disagree with the choice." It felt personal, controlling, like a line had been crossed not in the script, but in who gets to decide the direction of a young woman's life. That's where the tension sharpened. The character of Denise was moved off to college. In a spin-off, A Different World. On paper, it made sense. In practice, Lisa was gone from the mothership, and after one season, gone from the spin-off, too. Officially, it was creative differences. Unofficially, as Malcolm Jamal Warner has suggested, the real story was messier and more painful. And when Lisa married Lenny Kravitz and became a young mother, the temperature rose again. Instead of support, she ran into more resistance. Not the warm, safe television family energy we all imagine, something harder. Imagine being a teenager, becoming a household name overnight, then realizing the person who controls your workplace also controls the narrative around your choices. Imagine caring about a castmate and feeling powerless to help. That's the weight Malcolm Jamal Warner has described, watching a colleague he admired get isolated for wanting agency. He's been open about the regret that followed, wishing he'd spoken louder, sooner, even if it risked fallout for himself and the hundreds of people whose paychecks depended on keeping the machine running. And that's the wrenching part. This wasn't just a television show, it was a symbol. It meant visibility, jobs, dignity. It changed how the world saw a black family in prime time. When something that important is on the line, you don't just weigh your own career, you weigh a cultural milestone. The pressure to keep quiet becomes its own kind of cage. Look at the ripple effects. After leaving, Lisa Bonet kept working carefully, artistically, but never got the runway a star of her talent should have had. Meanwhile, other young cast members landed steady work and reinventions. Was that purely coincidence? The industry doesn't always say it out loud, but word travels. And when someone as powerful as Bill Cosby sets the tone, doors can close without a single public statement. Now, add everything we've learned in recent years about Cosby's behavior toward women. Suddenly, the dynamics Lisa faced don't look like one-off creative disagreements. They look like pieces of a larger pattern: control, punishment, silence. To be clear, Malcolm Jamal Warner has been careful: no wild claims, no sensationalism. But the through line is unmistakable. What happened to Lisa wasn't right. And the guilt of watching it and keeping quiet? He's carried that for decades. Think about the time period. There was no social media, no wave of public support, no obvious safety net for young actors in conflict with a superstar boss. Speaking up could mean being labeled difficult, ungrateful, or worse, especially if you were a young woman, especially if you were pregnant, especially if your choices didn't fit the image a brand wanted to sell to millions of homes every Thursday night. Re-watch the old episodes now, and you can almost see it. Denise slowly edges to the margins. The storylines shift. Her presence fades. The family we loved on screen kept smiling, but the off-screen family didn't look the same once the cameras stopped. And yet, through all of it, Lisa Bonet stayed herself. She didn't bend her art to win favor. She chose authenticity over a safe career path. It cost her, but it also preserved something rare: integrity. When Jamal Warner talks about her today, you can hear the respect. She was ahead of her time, talking about autonomy, boundaries, and artistic freedom years before the culture had the language for it. What she endured turns out to be a mirror of the wider industry, the quiet punishment of women who won't stay in the box. This isn't about relitigating gossip. It's about power, who has it, how they use it, and how hard it is to challenge when you're young and the stakes are sky high. It's about a man who was mentor, star, and boss all at once. Bill Cosby, and a set that felt like a family in the complicated, painful way some families do. Love on the surface, control underneath. It's also about accountability. Jamal Warner isn't telling these stories for clicks. He's a grown man with a career, a reputation, and nothing to gain by stirring the pot. He's speaking because truth matters, and because silence, his included, did damage. He wants younger performers to know they're not crazy. If something feels off, it probably island. And if you see someone being boxed in or isolated, your voice can matter more than you think. Most of all, it's about legacy. The show changed television forever. That's true. So is this. Knowing what we know now doesn't erase the good it did, but it forces us to see the whole picture, the art and the cost, the laughter and the harm. Both can be true at once. So, where does that leave us? With a harder, cleaner truth. Lisa Bonet wasn't difficult. She was defining herself. Jamal Warner wasn't disloyal. He was young, scared, and stuck in a system built to keep quiet. And Bill Cosby wasn't just America's dad. He was the boss wielding power in ways that, looking back, feel impossible to ignore. If this hit you in the gut, you're not alone. Stories like this help us protect the next Lisa before she pays the price for refusing to shrink. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Jamal Warner should have spoken sooner? Or do you understand why it took time? And how does this change the way you see those old episodes? If this deep dive gave you something to think about, tap like, drop your take in the comments, and subscribe for more honest, no-spin breakdowns of the real stories behind the shows we grew up with. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one, because this conversation isn't over yet.